Hello and welcome. You're watching Markets Today. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this edition, we discuss everything that's buzzing on D Street and what's really happening on the stock markets as we kick off another week for trade as well. Well, it's the big news that stock markets have zoomed ahead right in the early morning action. We have seen the Sensex crossing 60,000 mark yet again after a long haul. The Sensex has zoomed 800 points right in the early trade. The Nifty is trading near 17,900. It opened beyond that as well. So look at the kind of move that you're getting. What is really contributing to this gain? Well, it's the domestic factors mostly rather than the global factors. Of course, overnight on Friday, we did see US markets close on a positive note. The Asian markets, however, opened mixed because of the kind of fears of lockdown again emerging in China. And SGX Nifty, in fact, indicated a lower opening, but markets have actually zoomed ahead. What has really happened in the Indian markets? Why such a contrast? It's the big news that's coming in from the banking and financial space. HDFC Limited has announced that they will merge with HDFC Bank. Now, HDFC is a housing loan financing company, and HDFC Bank is the second, third largest, bank in India in terms of balance sheet. When you say now, when this merger happens, this will actually be creating a banking and financial behemoth, and this is something that is going to be perhaps extremely important for all the investors and analysts to understand how this is really going to impact the investors of HDFC Limited and investors of HDFC Bank as well. Most of the initial comments that are coming out are suggesting that the merged entity will be a bank rather than a housing financing company. So housing financing company will come underneath. However, right now, as we know, is that HDFC Bank will be a completely public shareholding company right after this merger. Some more details are to come out. Of course, there's been an initial press release as well from the company. Deepak Parekh has suggested that this will be a merger of equals right now. So this is definitely going to be extremely important to track. Right after this news announcement and soon after the stock markets open, both these stocks have zoomed ahead by 6% odd, and we have seen a very, very sharp contribution coming in onto the Nifty because of this big news as well. Remember, a few years ago, of course, there was some news of HDFC merging with HDFC Bank, but then thereafter, this news was dismissed. But right now, this news has actually come in as a surprise to the stock markets right in the early morning news. We've come to know that HDFC has announced a merger with big HDFC Bank as well. Now, overall, if you see, look at the stock markets, how they open today because of this development. Sensex jumped 729 points right at open and opened about 1.2% higher at 60,000 and above that in the early trade. Nifty moved 232 points higher or 1.3% up at 17,902. It is still trading higher than that, developing on this kind of a news. The broader markets also trading higher by 1.5% as far as the mid caps are concerned. 1.3% uptick for the small caps. All the sectors are trading in the green right in the early trading action, with banks and power definitely leading the way at this point in time as well. But of course, throughout the day, we will keep getting you voices, opinions on what this really means for all the shareholders. If you're a shareholder of HDFC and if you're a shareholder of HDFC Bank, what does it really mean for you? Some of the other details, let me help you understand. Post the merger, the existing shareholder of HDFC will hold 41% stake in HDFC Bank. Apart from this, the other development is that the board has definitely approved this development, and merger ratio will be 42 shares of HDFC Bank to 25 shares of HDFC. That is the kind of merger ratio that has been definitely talked about. One big what benefit could this have is most of the experts are talking about that this proposed transaction will reduce the bank's exposure to unsecured loans at this point in time. So a positive, a big development. How does it really impact you is something that we will analyze through the day. Right now, it is time to actually understand this big news that a big merger is going to be happening in India of two financial behemoths, which are of course related, but now a merged entity will be a big bank that will definitely create the largest bank also, could actually do that, or maybe right after SBI as well. So let's talk about the other bits that are important to understand at this point in time. Of course, this entire week, a whole lot of news flow will be coming around across the macros with respect to the Russia Ukraine war. Crude prices, which are already sliding. In fact, WTI crude also has slipped below the $100 mark. It slipped about 13 odd percent in the last week as well. Apart from this, of course, domestically, it'll be important for all the investors to track the RBI's monetary policy review meeting, and all eyes are on RBI governor's commentary on inflation. Remember, last time around, RBI governor pointed out that he expects inflation to peak out in this quarter and therefore decline thereafter, and nothing on the interest rate hike front was discussed. They still believed in the status quo as well, in contrast to most of the central banks across the world, which have been talking about aggressive interest rate hikes to control inflation, which is at a decadal high as well. But will it change the stance this time around? Will there be a hike in interest rate, or at least a commentary about it as well? Will there be a change in the projection for inflation going forward, keeping in mind the kind of levels that we have seen for crude oil, commodities, and how further Ukraine Russia crisis can actually impact the commodity prices as well? All of that will be important to track. Apart from this, of course, we have seen that there are China has been and Shanghai has been put under fresh lockdown. What does it really mean for all the supply disruptions yet again in critical components, like we had seen in the initial waves of COVID-19? Talk about the API material, or electronics and material supply chains getting disrupted. Will it happen again? And what does it mean for the already high prices of input costs that are rising for most of the manufacturers in India as well? All of those broad points will definitely define the way markets really go forward from here. For now, of course, it's the markets are joyous, and they are celebrating the merger of HDFC and HDFC Bank. But stay tuned with us throughout the day to understand what this really means for you as an investor and as a shareholder of HDFC or HDFC Bank. And should new investors be really looking at investing in the new merged entity as well? How will that function? All of that coming up on Business Today throughout the day. So do stay tuned onto with us. Thank you very much for tuning in for now. For now, stock markets really in a joyous mode.